Hello everyone, and welcome. I'm VelvettB, and thank you for coming along on this journey with me today. We are on a speed build, and we are building that little beauty there. So this is actually a shell challenge that I did, and the shell challenge was run by VelvettB, and she is a fabulous content creator and an amazing builder as well. So I was excited to do the shell challenge. I don't always have time to do shell challenges, but I went through a little bit of a phase of doing some recently and got to catch up on some of those. So yeah, and with any shell challenge, one of the things you cannot do is touch those external walls. So if you're wondering why I was sort of adding some walls and then put the little slatted wooden things on there, what I'm going to do is actually delete those external walls that I created and behind there just to create a false wall, which if you've seen me sort of do renovations or other shell challenges, you'll know that it's a little trick that I like to do when I want to change the shape of a build, but I'm not allowed to touch the walls. So yeah, you can sort of see the landscaping going in here. So just keeping it pretty simple, using the sort of the white romantic garden flowers and just some of the cypress trees that come with base game. So I'm just adding in a little balcony and that sort of thing. I'm not adding too much as far as your balconies slash verandas slash decks to this build, because it is a tiny, I did want it to stay as a tiny home. You didn't have to keep it as a tiny home, but I did want to keep it under that 100 tile minimum there, which you can sort of see on the screen. It has like a bit of a count of how many tiles we're doing. And I wanted to do it as a contemporary, or sort of a very sort of modern contemporary home. One of the things for this particular shell challenge is we had to keep that chimney in place. So I'm just working through that and how I was actually going to incorporate that into the build. It's not so much the chimney that was the problem, it was the style of the chimney, if that makes sense. So like I had to sort of work through how I was going to use that stone within the context of this build and the modern style that I went with. So yeah, so that was an interesting challenge. Now you can sort of see here I'm starting to put in some more of those slatted wall decorations that came with Eco Lifestyle, the same as I did around the sort of the tall towery type part around the back. And yeah, so I'm just sort of repeating that pattern around the base of the house. I will skip over the rest of me doing this because it gets a little bit repetitive, but as you can see there, I did that around the base of the house just to create like a different design around the house. I thought that would be quite cool. So on this side here, I'm just doing a little bit of decoration with the Get Together vines. I love those vines. They're really nice vines. And once again, just using the white flowers. So that's something that I used from the Romantic Garden Pack. And I'm continuing that theme through in the ivy that's creeping up the side. And then you'll see me when I put the garden in that connects to the ivy, I will use the same flowers again. It just creates a sense of consistency and simplicity for a type of garden. Like contemporary gardens tend, not always, but tend to be like a little bit more simplistic in terms of keeping to, you know, just a few different styles rather than having like your English wildflower garden or something like that, where, you know, you'll have sort of a whole wild mess of amazing plants and flowers and stuff all over the place. So yeah, with a contemporary home, I do find going a little bit more simple in the landscaping in the garden does work nicely, but it does depend on the house. It does depend on the sims going in the house, and you know, if you've got like a really cool gardening sim going in there and they love gardening and they love a wildflower, you know, beautiful English garden, then you know you can make it work. But for the sim that is going in here, it's actually going to be a 2-bedroom home, so it's like going to be an adult sim and their child going in there. So it is a single parent going into this home. So as you can see there with the fencing, this is how I was just talking about the chimney and how that sort of worked in with the build because of the design and the stone and everything like that. And this is how I worked it in by using the same fencing from Get Together. I'm pretty sure it's a Get Together chimney. And then I use the same fencing just to tie that stone into you know, into the rest of the build as well. So it looked like it actually belonged, like it was a deliberate choice, not just like a choice that I had to use it. So that's sort of how I did it. So I did like the column of the chimney, and then I used the fencing. And so I've got that sort of stone carrying through the build and making it work. I felt I made it work anyway. I thought it was quite cool actually mixing that stone in there, and it's actually something that I will do again with a contemporary home because I thought it looked really cool. So I'm just adding some plant life to the exterior, sort of your potted plants, and I realised I wanted to use that bamboo in the side garden there. I actually built this, oh, where did I build this? It must be, I want to say San Sequoia, but maybe it's Newcrest actually. I can't see enough of the background to check, but yeah, I think it's San Sequoia, because I noticed the other day, there's something I probably did notice previously, but I just was thinking about it the other day, that all of the like 20 by 30 lots, which this is a 20 by 30 lot in San Sequoia, are actually side lots rather than long lots. So it does add like a different aspect to how you lay out your build when you're doing a side, you know, a sideways, a sort of a landscape lot versus a portrait lot. So yeah, it's quite interesting because I was actually wanting to build in San Sequoia the other day, but I wanted to have a portrait lot, and it was like all the landscape lots. So this is why I was thinking about it, because I was like, I want to build in San Sequoia because I want to do like a contemporary home, and then I couldn't because it didn't have the lot style that I wanted. I was like, oh, curses. So I just went to Newcrest, as you do. So as you can see there, we talked about consistency in the landscaping and just bringing a few different styles into the landscaping. So, you know, it had a consistency to it and a style to it. And I've done the same around the edge of the pool there with the romantic garden stuff pack. And I'm actually just changing the color of the pool. I decided I wanted to have like quite a dark pool just to match that real modern vibe, and then I just changed the water on it as well to that really lovely sort of green, deep, luxe looking water. I do like that water, it's quite lovely. So if you weren't aware, you can actually change your pool color. So it's just simple wallpaper flooring. So there you go. If you weren't aware of that one, that's just a little pool tip for you from VelvettB. And you can also put lighting on the wall as well, just to light it up at night. And it's easier actually if you go down to the basement level and do it, rather than do it from the top. So just giving out the pool tips. Crazy old Velvet there. So I'm just creating the backyard area. So as I said, this is going to be a single parent and their kid going in here. So there'll be a kid's room as well. So I did think about having something for a kid in this build in the backyard. So I didn't want to just make it sort of like quite adult. So this is why I'm sort of adding in the cute little ivy covered kids stuff that you can get. So it's the little campers swing, and I don't remember which monkey bars. And then I'm just creating like a little garden area because I felt like the sim was into gardening, like not hardcore gardening, but a little bit of gardening. And what I'm creating at the moment, so this is just like a little fountain, but I'm creating like a little zen area, which I thought was going to be super cute, because they're kind of, you know, into sort of nature and outdoors, gardening, wellness. So perfect for these guys. So just doing like a little line of candles around the outside, so it just looks pretty at night. That's kind of the idea of that. And just like a little meditation stall, yoga area, and just some little bits and pieces, just to, you know, promote that inner peace, that mental health wellness, and physical health wellness as well if you're doing yoga. So a little bit of both, which is lovely. Just adding in some more of that ivy, which came with the get together pack, and some little bits from the spa day pack as well. Just, you know, wellness. It's all about the wellness, baby. And also doing some meditation while you're listening to the bees and going, I hope I don't get stung, I hope I don't get stung. I just flicked over to Snowy Escape and just did like the little fountain from that. So we are now moving inside. So part of the build was placed, well, you didn't have to, but I did want to place that little Tony Tiger little figure. I thought that was super cute. I think it's, I think it might be Becky's little signature item, so I thought that was cute and I wanted to have it in the build. And I kept it pretty simple as far as colors, so I gave warmth to the build with adding the woods, and then I went dark in the furnishings because I love dark furnishings. So sorry to everyone who doesn't love dark furnishings. I love dark furnishings, and I do like to go that direction fairly regularly, I've got to say, particularly if I'm doing a contemporary or a modern build. I just feel like going with black furnishings really does suit those style of builds. I do tend to go like a lot lighter if I'm doing a traditional build or something like that. Yeah, I would do with a traditional or like a cottage build or something. I would likely go lighter. And not to say I don't go lighter in other contemporary and modern builds, but I do, you know, have a little bit of a vibe with the darker colours sometimes in these. So, yeah. So I'm just creating, like, because it is a tiny home, I am conscious of the space that I'm using and how I'm using that space and what I'm fitting into each of the areas. So yeah, I am thinking about that. So I have created like a little mini entrance area just using an end table rather than a console table. I'm just creating like a mirror. I'm using actually debug just to create this. So it's actually like a debug fencing and a debug pole. I did intend to actually do a video on how to do this, but I found, because I use the Better Build by mod by Twisted Mexi to help me with debug, because it makes it so much easier to find things and to use debug as a whole. But I found like trying to do this without Better Build by, like I couldn't find like one of the items to actually show you how to do it. So it's just kind of like, oh well, it'll just be my trick that I know how to do. So now I'm just starting to, I did this in a really weird way. Like I actually built out two of the rooms, so like your entrance area and like the start of the living area, because it's not going to be much of a living area, and the kitchen, before I even like did the rest of the floor plan. I don't know, it was one of those things where I knew where a couple of the spaces, what a couple of the spaces were going to be, but then I didn't really know how I was going to build out the rest of this house, because tiny homes really are challenging when you start thinking about how to use the space and what you want to do there. I didn't want to do like platforms and that sort of thing. I mean, those can be tricky and messy, and it's probably not a strong point of mine because I don't do them enough. Like, how you do your platform beds and, that sort of thing. I don't do them enough to be feeling like I'm super skillful with that. Now and then, and I do work with platforms and I do like them, but yeah, I do need to practice that a little bit more, I think, before I do too much of that in a build. But also I didn't really want to get too complicated with it. So you can sort of see the living area here coming together. It's sort of living entrance. It's super tiny, but it is a tiny home, so that makes sense. And I am fitting this in as a 2-bedroom with a single bathroom. So the floor plan is now starting to come together. So that's going to be the bathroom going in there. I was thinking about angles, but that just wasn't working for me. The kids' bedroom is going to be at the base of that tower. And then the double bedroom, well, I say double bedroom, it's got a double bed in it, but it's not wide enough for both sides of the bed to be accessible. But it is what it is in a tiny home, but I made it work, as you do. So starting to get the last part of the floor plan down. I'm using, I think that's a Seasons door on the doors. I do like that Seasons door. It is a really nice door, and I think I used Horse Ranch for the windows. I'm just looking at that. I was like, what have I been using on things? It was Horse Ranch. I'm using the Book Nook Kit wallpaper. I love that wallpaper. It's the Generimax wallpaper. So nice. So I was playing around with that bed, and I was just like, that bed just wasn't fitting the vibe. So I think I ended up changing that bed, and then I just wanted to have like a little cute cut off wardrobe area. It ended up being, I might have had to change it a little bit. I definitely had to change the kids' room around a little bit when I went and did some play testing. Some of the stuff didn't quite work, so there is one inaccessible area in this build that I just left, which is the bookcase that is going to go in on the wall at the end of that bed. It just wasn't accessible. I couldn't make it accessible. I could if I put a single bed in, but I wanted to have a double bed in more than I wanted to have an accessible bookcase, so it's just like, I'll just leave it. It is what it is. It's a decorative bookcase. It's not a functional bookcase. So I'm just thinking of ways that I can add in like a little bit more of a lived-in feel to this bedroom. So I'm just working on shelving and adding shelving clutter to the shelving is kind of where I'm going with that. But I'll end up moving that around a little bit. So that little corner there, I couldn't get the Sims in to access that. So that's just kind of a decorative corner. But the rest, I think, was all very functional because I did test it out and make it sort of functional and working and that sort of thing, as you do. So using the Desert Luxe curtains, I'm just shrinking those down, and then those shelves sort of cut through. So I was like, okay, we'll just do smaller versions of those shelves. So I shrunk those down. Thank you very much, Move Objects. Very useful for little problem solving things, you know, combining things and just generally making a nice build. I don't know how I would go if I was building without Move Objects on. I reckon I would get build rage because you get so used to building with Move Objects on and having flexibility and being able to place things off the grid. Whereas when you don't have Move Objects on, you don't have that option. And I'm just very aware that I would probably get really irritated not being able to place things the way I want in the place that I want. Oh, so much privilege having this mod, right? Or having this cheat. It's not a mod, it's a cheat. Having that cheat just makes all the difference in the world. And I'm so glad that console players actually get that cheat as well, because they miss out on so much with not having mods, that, you know, just having that simple thing of a few cheats that they can use to help with their building, because building is hard enough, I imagine, on console without having to deal with being stuck to the grid and just like, yeah, I mean, console players are amazing. Like what they can do with a console to build, I mean, it's absolutely stunning, because it just must take so much longer to do anything on console. I just imagine it would. I haven't actually ever attempted it, and I don't know if I ever would. I could. I do. My husband has consoles, and you know, Game Pass, you can download base game for free, you know, that sort of thing. So in theory, I could. Whether or not I would, I don't know. I'm not very good with a console as it is. So, I don't know if it would be a very good fit for me. Me and my lack of patience. So, I'm just going back to the kitchen area. So, I did like the basics of the kitchen area, and then I sort of went back and revisited it because I wanted to put some clutter in there and just give it that lived-in feel. And I did use the Home Chef Hustle pack for the kitchen because I love it. That's basically it. I just love that pack. I just love it. It's the bestest of the kitchen packs. Just working out how I'm going to place this clutter and what I'm going to do there. So little bits and pieces on the wall. And then I decided, well, you know what? Actually, I'll get the stuff along the wall under the window because it does fit there quite nicely. But I want to have, because there's not enough room there to do bench clutter because there's only sort of the one counter free. I mean, maybe you could use the other side of the islands as well, but really there is only the one counter there. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's put some clutter on a shelf. So I'm using the Immaculate Shelving and just dragging across using the Dream Home Decorator cube. It's just an easy way because it's just the way that the shelf slots work in The Sims, because the shelf slots on the shelves themselves are actually small, but there's not a great deal of items in the game that go on a small slot. So like you have your everyday clutter and your bathroom clutter kits. They are items that sit on, or rather have a small slot. They sit on a small slot space, if this makes sense. I don't know if this makes sense, but it makes sense in my head. So, you know, because you have like three kinds of slot spaces on a shelf. So you have small, medium, and large. Most items will not fit on the small slot space, but all or if most of the shelves that you get in the game only have small slot shelf spaces on them. So by clicking and dragging from the Dream Home Decorator Cube, the Dream Home Decorator Cube has a medium slot space on it. If you don't have Dream Home Decorator, you can also use the base game towel rack for the same purpose. That also has a medium shelf spot on a slot. I'm losing my words here, but yes, medium shelf slot spot on it. So either of those two items are really good, and then you can put like medium items on those shelves, holding down Alt, and yes, you do need move objects for this. Holding down Alt, then you can drag it over to shelves that otherwise would not fit those items on it. So that's why I do it. You can obviously lift up items as well using 9 or Control 9 to lift items up manually. The issue that I have with that is that you don't always get the shelf the right height to the item, so you'll sometimes get floating items. I mean, you can, if you've got something like the immaculate shelving or something like that, you can actually just adjust that so it sits under the floating item. So that's not so bad, but there are some items where, like it's a shelf or it's a shelf or something like that, or an end table or something that you want to lift it up onto, that's just not going to fit on there, and sometimes it does float, so it's not ideal. I do prefer the dragging option opposed to the lifting option. I feel it sits nicer. Oh my god, I banged on about that, didn't I? Whoa, I left my phone on too. Good on me. So I banged on about that, but it's just something that it's just one of those things that if you're not too familiar with how the shelving kind of works in The Sims, it might be interesting to you guys. I didn't realize that for a long time, how that kind of worked, until I guess I started building a lot more on the regular and started thinking about what fits on where. And there's really very minimal things that will fit on an actual shelf in The Sims, just because of the way all the items that are, I guess, set for sitting on shelves are more likely to be a medium size than they are a small size. And when you've got shelves that are all pretty much medium size, it's kind of, it's just an exercise in frustration. So I am in the kids room at the moment. So as you can see here, I'm just putting up some different lighting and just pretty stuff. I don't know how much of this I keep. I was fussing around with it for ages, and I was kind of like, oh man, this is so much. Is it over the top? But you know what? Kids love a whole lot of stuff on the walls, don't they? Bright colors, things they've found, things they like, cool things, kids just love things on their walls. I mean, just thinking about my 11-year-old, he's 11 now, oh my gosh, because he's just had his birthday in the last week or so. But yeah, just thinking about him, he's just like, wherever he can stick things on his wall or his door, whatever. It's like his door is covered in stuff. Just because, kids just love to have things that they like stuck up around them so they can see them. So it kind of makes sense to me. And now we've moved into the bathroom. So I am going growing together because I love that growing together set, because I love that it's got metal trim on it. That's very contemporary, very now, having that metal trim to everything. And it is matching metal trim. So the shower, the sink, the towel and the mirror, matching. Love it. Why they didn't do a toilet with that pack, don't know. Annoys me every time. But anyway. Don't have a toilet, which is a shame, but I do like the I think it's the Tiny Home Stuff Pack one, because you can actually make that black. So if I'm doing a room like this, you've actually got a toilet that does match the rest of the room. Just using the Spa Day wooden slat mat in front of the shower, like a little wooden shower mat out in front. Oh my gosh, that's our build. I was so busy going on about shelves, I didn't realize we were at the end of the build. So here we are on the exterior. So you can sort of see the lovely backyard area. They've got a pool, they've got places for the kid to go. I mean, it is a tiny home, so there was a good amount of space to do something with the backyard. So I'm really happy with what I ended up doing. And we've got like a little garden area, we've got a zen area, so there's a lot of outdoor living things to do, which I love. And I really like how I did tie in that chimney with the fence and with the, you know, on the wall panel as well, just to make it look like it was a natural and intended part of the build. Even though it wasn't something I would normally do, I actually really like how it came out. And then going through to our living area, so I continued the stone in that area, and then into the corner there with the Generamax into the kitchen. So we've got sort of like lots of lovely clutter, and using the Home Chef Hustle kitchen as well. And you've got a kitchen island, so that's in place of actually having a dining table. Then in through to the bathroom, so we were just looking at that. So we've got all the, like, you know, the lovely grown together stuff there. Into the master bedroom. So this, I did have to change a few things. I think what's it? The dresser wasn't accessible because of the shoes. So I had to move the shoes, but otherwise, you know, it's pretty functional except for that corner. And then moving into the kids room, so I did have to change this around, so I think I mentioned that earlier in the build, so to make that all functional as well, but all good. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.